In the autumn of 1974, the United States was preoccupied with the fallout of Watergate and an energy crisis. But in the small, coal-dusted town of Oakhaven, something far more quiet was unfolding, or rather, folding in on itself. The official report, if you can find the single carbon copy hidden in the basement of the county registrar, claims a routine structural fire claimed the home of Elias Thorne. Elias was a clockmaker, a man of meticulous habits and zero enemies. The report says he died in the blaze, but the fire department's own log from that night, October 14th, contains a handwritten note in the margins. House is gone. The foundation is gone. There is only a hole that the water won't fill. When the neighbors were interviewed, their stories didn't just differ, they fractured. Mrs. Gable across the street claimed Elias had been boarding up his windows for months, yet the mailman swore he saw Elias waving from a wide-open porch every morning. Two realities existing in the same space until the night the screaming started. Not a human scream, the sound of metal being stretched until it snaps. By morning, the house at 412 Miller Street was not a ruin, it was a vacancy, a perfect rectangular plot of dirt where even the weeds refused to grow. Wait, if the house was gone, why did the local power company continue to record electrical draws from that specific meter for the next 3 decades? 3 years ago, a group of urban explorers found a way into the Oakhaven Municipal Archives. They weren't looking for Elias Thorne. They were looking for maps of the old mine shafts. Instead, they found a box marked "In Perpetuity, Do Not Open." Inside was a single reel-to-reel tape and a collection of Polaroids. The photos don't show a fire. They show the interior of a house, presumably Elias's. But the geometry is wrong. In one photo, a hallway seems to narrow into a point that shouldn't be physically possible. In another, a staircase leads upward, but the shadows on the wall suggest the person climbing it is walking upside down. The most disturbing image is of an attic door. It's a small wooden hatch in a ceiling of peeling wallpaper. The wood is scorched, not by fire, but something that looks like frost. Written on the hatch in what appears to be charcoal are the words, "The weight of the air here is different." The explorers played the tape. At first, it's just the sound of a clock ticking. Then the ticking starts to desync. You hear 2 clocks, then 4, then 100, all beating at different intervals until the sound becomes a static roar. And through the noise, a voice, Elias's voice, whispering a string of coordinates. The coordinates don't point to Oakhaven. They point to a spot in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, or they would if the third digit didn't fluctuate every time you replay the recording. How does a recording change itself while it's sitting on a shelf? The local police chief at the time, Silas Vane, retired a week after the Thorne disappearance. He moved to a desert town in Arizona and never spoke to his family again. When he passed away in 2002, his estate included a diary. The final entry is dated the night he surveyed the hole where the house had been. He wrote, "I looked down into the pit. I didn't see dirt. I saw the sky, but the stars were the wrong color. And I realized then that Elias hadn't disappeared. We had. He was the only one who stayed behind." Think about that. If Elias stayed behind, where are we? The psychological toll on the few people who remember the Thorne case is consistent. A permanent sense of vertigo, a feeling that the floor beneath them is thin like ice over a black lake. They report hearing a low-frequency hum, the kind you hear near power lines, coming from inside their own walls. One witness, a child in 1974, claims she saw Elias one last time, weeks after the disappearance. He was standing in the middle of the empty lot. He wasn't moving. He looked like a photograph pinned to the air. She said she called out to him, and he turned, but he didn't turn his head. His whole body rotated like cardboard cutout. He looked at her, and his eyes weren't eyes. They were just more sky. The theories are plenty, and none of them offer any comfort. Some suggest a localized rift, a failure in the stitching of our perceived world, centered on a man whose life was dedicated to the measurement of time. Perhaps Elias Thorne didn't die. Perhaps he became a permanent resident of a structural flaw in reality. Others point to the hidden space theory, that there are rooms in our houses, voids in our architecture that we aren't meant to perceive, dark matter turned into floorboards and joists. Elias found the door in his attic, and once it was opened, the house was reclaimed by the vacuum on the other side. Then there is the most unsettling possibility, that Oakhaven never existed, that the records were erased because the entire town was an anomaly, a temporary overlap of two versions of the United States, and as the overlap corrected itself, Elias Thorne was the piece of the puzzle that didn't fit in either world, left vibrating in the gap between here and nowhere. To this day, if you drive through the site of the old Miller Street expansion, your radio will lose its signal. For 3 blocks, there is only white noise. But if you turn the volume up very slowly, you can hear it. It's the sound of a clock ticking, and then the sound of someone knocking on wood, muffled, as if they are trapped just behind the surface of the air you're breathing. If you find a door in your home that you don't remember being there, don't wonder what's inside. Wonder what's waiting for you to notice it. Some things are forgotten for a reason, and once you remember them, they remember you too.